This is
I
it.
need to remind you.
Sometimes I do.
You need a name, huh?
Would you like to begin with the invocation, please? Okay. All right. Let's call the April meeting, April 2025 meeting of the Finance Committee of the MTA to order, please. David, public speakers, please.
Thank you. We have 5 registered speakers today. We ask that all public speakers adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. In the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. There will be a warning beep to remind you there are 30 seconds remaining to conclude your remarks. Our first speaker remotely is Charlton D'Souza, who will be followed by Lisa Daglian.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Charlton D'Souza. I'm the president of Passengers United. I just heard the presentation at the joint committee meeting, and we are very concerned by the fact that the independent auditor has just said to the MT committee and the board that Nice Bus and Beeline Bus systems, due to testing and due to software integration and all of that stuff, will not be up and running for another 3 to 4 months, which means that you're still going to need MetroCard, unlimited MetroCard passes till at least, I would say, April 2026. So, Mr. Chairman, I call on you to please make sure that the check cashing stores in Nassau County and stores by 179th Street and 169th Street, Parsons Archer, and also in Flushing have MetroCards, so people can buy them, because you guys are taking out the machines and the only other MetroCard machines in the station are broken. So this is hurting, Nassau customers. This is hurting people in the Bronx. So this has to be dealt with. And also with the Queens bus redesign, we are demanding that you guys release the second transfer policy for the Queens bus redesign on your website and in your printed materials, because no one in Queens should have to pay an additional fare because of the Queens bus redesign. That is ridiculous. And so what we're doing at Passengers United is we're creating our own guide, which we're going to submit to you guys, a report about which route should be eligible for an additional transfer because of the Queens bus redesign. Like if you go from Queens Village to Far Rockaway, that would require an additional bus. So again, I implore the board to please keep MetroCards at least till April 2025, because we don't know what's going to happen with the testing at Nice Bus and Beeline Bus. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lisa Daglian, who will be followed by Bruce Hain.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Lisa Daglian, Executive Director for the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA PCAC. We're all anxiously awaiting the state budget and full funding for the 25-29 capital plan. Who knows, maybe today. The program, which is 90% stated good repair work, is essential for our region's riders and the economy. It's also key to the fare gates of the future, as we heard earlier. We've all spent too much time of the winter and spring ensuring the legislature knows the stakes, and we have confidence that they'll deliver. As they deliberate in Albany, we'll again note the progress that you've all made in keeping costs under control, so critical in the face of tenuous federal support for transit. As Brian Fritsch noted in a Streets blog op-ed, the MTA's operating budget is 3% smaller today than pre-pandemic, with an anticipated $500 million in savings this year, with no layoffs or service cuts. We're also thrilled to see fare receipts above budget estimates on nearly every MTA mode, and the significant progress being made on fare evasion. On the capital side, improved planning, contracting, and construction have saved $3 billion in the current plan. Even so, while Secretary Duffy's suggestion that DOJ look at MTA finance is ludicrous, we would not be surprised if the feds did everything in their power to strip New York of vital transportation and infrastructure funding. And while they have taken a wrecking ball to federal agencies, the MTA has used a scalpel, saving taxpayers billions without throwing riders under the proverbial bus. Can more be done to make construction projects even faster and efficient? Sure. But a lot of the heavy lifting has to happen in Albany, where too many budget-busting traditions are baked into the system. The MTA has 100% made significant progress worth celebrating. And finally, thank you, Neil. We want to get in on that group hug. As a former MNRCC member, for so strongly advocating for riders despite the political pressures. We particularly appreciate your steadfast support for congestion pricing, especially when suburban voices and forces favoring the program were and still are too few and far between. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Bruce Hain, who will be followed by Jason Anthony.
Good morning. I'm Bruce Hain. I bill myself as the foremost rail transportation planner of my generation by default, and it still seems to me to be true. I wanted to thank Jano for laughing the last time he did in the general board meeting few months ago, because if he hadn't have done it then, I would have been more at sea than I was. So maybe somebody can convey it to him. I thought this was going to be the big meeting with what's his name, Duffy, and the all the criticism. Well, you know, if I were them, I don't think I would try and dissuade you and all these people who think congestion pricing is so important. But I would like to say that, you know, there are a lot of things in capital projects where you could save money. And one of them I discussed this morning in the safety committee after that fireball at 80 miles an hour where they rolled over the car. You know, you need to eliminate grade crossings. You may not be able to stop all the trespassing things, but you need to eliminate grade crossings. And not like you did in Mineola, where they put the thing that's supposed to go on the top on the bottom. These people are sociopathic. It's true. Come on. They're misleading you. And you're authorizing it. You're signing off on it. It's no good. Anyway, I told you how to do the one thing at Jamaica Hall cheaply, and you didn't. You built the bridge instead. So here are all my cards. I have 25 for you here.
Please conclude your remarks. Thank you.
Yes, I'm trying to give somebody my cards. You can go to my website and look at the thank you for coming forward, Mr. Chairman. And so that somebody can look at the one about the Rockaway Beach branch. It's 4 or 5 on the page. Sorry, guys.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jason Anthony, who will be followed by Christopher Greif.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jason Anthony, the Transit Guru. Let's start with something that occurred last month. Let's say that Sean Patrick Duffy was in our beloved city, while yours truly and our beloved Chairman Jan Lever were haunting them like, where's Waldo? But let's say we couldn't find them. But in this week's edition of City and State New York, Sean Patrick Duffy came out as one of their losers because the federal government wants to do everything wrong against the Empire State's interests. But at the same time, one of our beloved board members, Hayden Mahaltis, has been recognized in that same publication. So kudos, Hayden. Keep doing the good work. And at the same time, congestion pricing numbers are looking very good for the third month in a row. So let's keep it up with congestion pricing, because those on the far right, especially in D.C., they like to go to a certain network that's on 6th Avenue, spreading lies on conspiracy theories. But here on the MTA, we don't believe that. So we all, like always, facts are always right and always first. So Neil, thank you for always doing your job for those on Putnam, and you always have my support.
Thank you. Our final speaker is Christopher Greif.
Surprise. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Christopher D. Greif. As a lot of us, we discussed about the finance and seeing congestion pricing is working, getting more accessibility is working. But as this secretary thinks that he wants to take away funding or end congestion pricing, it's not going to work that way, because he should look at himself in the mirror, look at accessibility, look at the traffic that goes on, not just at here, but going in any places. That traffic does give people a chance to where they have to go. For example, Accessoride, who goes from any of the 5 boroughs. As usual, they forget about accessibility. He forgets about elevators. He forgets about ramps, other mobile devices. Accessibility is there for a reason. To funding this is we have to make sure elevators are up to date, elevators that have to be built, ramps have to be built. And let's not forget about staircases, platform edges. The funding comes in there. You know, looking at funding, a lot of them they're forgetting is MTA has been working on getting the funding. We've been asking this for almost now years with the new capital going in. We need the funding. I just don't understand. A lot of our elected officials don't understand that you're talking backwards, but we're supposed to go forwards. We're supposed to move forward to the future, not backwards. And you're saying you're hearing our communities. The communities are telling you we need the funding. And if they want the proof, it's on the website. It's in a book. Read it, study it, and how can we work together for the future? Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the public speakers.
Thank you to our public speakers. Thank you, David. Let's go to the administrative business of our minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the March Finance Committee minutes, please? Thank you. Second. Thank you, Lisa. Comments, corrections? Okay, please, Andrew.
Yes, on the top of page 24, it says Honorable David. It doesn't have a last name. He left out Jones. So if you put that in, it'll be fine.
Good, thank you. Paige, you have that? Okay, thank you. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Thank you very much. David, the monthly financial performance report, please.
Thank you. Year-to-date operating results through March are compared to the adopted budget and will be revised as numbers are audited and reviewed. This month's takeaways: overall operating results were $232 million favorable. 41% of that is due to favorable operating subsidy results. Operating subsidies were $96 million favorable, with just 1/3 timing related. Paid ridership for all agencies was favorable, but B&T traffic was unfavorable to budget. Farebox revenue was $32 million favorable, while toll revenue was on target. Operating expense spending was favorable by $61 million, or 1.5%. Debt service expense was $6 million favorable, and capital subsidies were $30 million favorable. Operating subsidies reflect favorable results for the payroll mobility tax, the urban tax, and the mortgage recording tax, as well as a $96 million timing-related favorable variance for local operating assistance. Paid ridership was favorable across the board, up 3.7% MTA-wide, while B&T traffic was unfavorable to budget by 1.1%. Ridership was favorable by 3.2% for subway, 3.9% for bus, 8.9% for Long Island Railroad, and 4.1% for Metro North. Farebox revenue, $32 million favorable. I said before, toll revenue was on target. Subway farebox revenue was $17 million favorable, while combined bus, New York City Transit MTA bus, farebox revenue was favorable by $2 million. Long Island Railroad was $9 million favorable, and Metro North was $2 million favorable. Operating expense spending was favorable by $61 million. Labor expenses were $17 million favorable. Payroll was favorable by $34 million, while overtime was unfavorable by $74 million. That's primarily due to absentee coverage requirements in New York City Transit and necessary response to weather-related conditions that occurred in February. The remainder of labor-related expenses are primarily timing-related. Non-labor expenses were $35 million favorable. Paratransit service contracts were $26 million unfavorable due to higher trip volume. Electric power and fuel costs were a combined $2 million unfavorable, and the remaining categories were primarily timing related. Debt service was $6 million favorable, primarily due to variable rate savings and the payment of certain debt service from the capital lockbox, which was partially offset by the reversal of prior positive timing variances. And there are further details in the financial performance report.
Questions for David? Okay, two for you, David, because until you got to paratransit, everything you said was favorable, which is pretty rare to hear. So fare box 3% up, and then MRT and urban taxes pretty significantly up. Are these trends we should be excited about?
All those numbers are year-to-date.
Yes.
You will see on page 61 of the Finance Committee book the monthly real estate numbers, and you'll note that MRT combined was $600,000 unfavorable, and combined urban tax was $500,000 unfavorable. And that's the first month in 2025 where the combined real estate was negative. The only thing I want to say about
Please.
that is that probably about 20 years ago, we changed the method that we do our monthly forecasts. It used to be that we would try to posit what was going to be higher and lower each month, and we always got it wrong. And we had, I mean, there are trends. There are certain times of the year where you know MRT, for example, will be a little bit lower because people don't want to buy houses during the middle of the school year. And that we can figure out, but you also don't know with rising prices, interest rate changes, how that affects the up and down. So our forecasts for all our real estate taxes are flat for each month of the year. And we tend to see it being a little bit unfavorable this month. So I wouldn't put too much credence into it. If you go to the next page in that book, you'll see that year-to-date, each month is better than last year for the same month.
Okay, good caution. Please, Jay.
Yeah, if I can add. So I think a couple of things that I would break down here. On fare box revenue, you heard David say that we're favorable to budget. Just another highlight, compared to 2024 for the first quarter, we're up actually 6% in fare box revenue compared to 24 to 25, which is a good indicator. Most of us were at the previous super committee where we talked about fare evasion and how we're collecting fares. So that's a good indicator for us. If you remember last year during our July plan, we actually did a sort of a takedown on fare box revenue because of we were being conservative, but all indicators for 2025, our fare box revenue is up, and that's 6%. And then to your second point, paratransit, we are seeing a lot of growth in paratransit services. There's about a 20% increase in trips, which translates to about 20% in dollars. Most of that is offset by city funding at the moment, but we anticipate that the city funding will hit the cap in come April, maybe this month or next month, and then we would go back to a 50% cost share. So.
Please, Andrew.
Jay, when you said fare box revenue was up, and I saw the table and it looks like it is, does that mean, I mean, you could deduct two things from that. We have more riders, so fare box revenue is up, or a greater percentage of the existing ridership is actually paying. Which is it?
So I think it's a combination, to be honest. It's hard to divide those two numbers, but we are seeing a change in the fare evasion rate. You've seen that we've said on the subways it's a 30% decrease in fare evasion, and there's some 9% change in fare evasion rate on our buses. So that is definitely impacting our paid ridership, but we're also seeing a change in patterns. You've started to see Mondays and Fridays really inch up closer to the 4 million average daily ridership, which we were not seeing previously. So I think it's a
weekends are really busy.
On weekends, we can see more than 100% of pre-pandemic ridership.
Absolutely.
Probably.
So, David, despite what you said, by trying to deflate me, I still take it as a pretty good news, or at least an emerging good news story. So
Yeah,
let me have my joy for the.
I don't believe there's any bad news yet.
Okay, well that is a way an accountant would speak, I guess, at heart. You know, it's not bad news.
I'm
Okay.
not an accountant. I don't want to take credit.
Okay,
for
well, a finance person. Olga, the floor is yours, madam.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. This month's capital financing report includes details of an $800 million bond anticipation sale, which we closed earlier this month. Proceeds from this note sale will be used to finance transit and commuter projects in the approved capital programs and to fund certain capitalized interest expenses. Bonds were priced through competitive bidding, and it resulted in an arbitrage yield of 2.99%, which is a little higher than where some of our recent bond anticipation notes came in, but that's more a reflection of general market trends rather than credit concerns or investor concerns with respect to MTA or the bonds themselves. So that's concludes my summary of the transaction. Please let me know if you have any questions.
All right, thank you. Did you want to say anything else, Olga? Oh, later? Okay, fine. All right, great. All right, Jay, over to you on the congestion pricing financial update, please.
Sure, I will give the third month of congestion pricing revenue update and expenses. March, we collected $58.4 million in toll revenue. On the expense side, we had expenses of about $13.3 million, reflecting a little bit of a higher legal cost. As you know, we are, fighting our battles. So a net operating revenue of $45.1 million for the month. We're starting to see the same patterns, I would say, by revenue by vehicle type and revenue by time of day. You know, most of our tolls are collected during the peak. It was 94% of peak collections for March and 6% off-peak. And then the revenue by vehicle type, there was 68% of that revenue was passenger vehicles, then 22% for taxis and for-hire vehicles, and then about 10% for trucks and buses. Overall, I would say for the first quarter, we collected $159 million in revenue from congestion relief against total expenses of about $36 million. For net collections of $123 million for the first 3 months. This indicates that if even we know that the spring and summer months are a little bit higher, but if you did simple math of taking 123 million, multiplying it by 4, you're close to the $500 million that we have in our financial plan projected for this year.
Questions? Please, Lisa.
I don't know if you'll be able to. So you said trucks are about 10%. With the changes that are coming in sanitation and the cut down on the amount of trucks, do you foresee a huge reduction in income coming from that?
Trucks represent 9% of the tolls that we've been collecting. So I don't see a market change, but
Is that the commercial carding? Yeah, so it's piloting in Queens. It will be several years before it hits the.
Not really. The Bronx
congestion.
is October and finishing in November. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, but I think it'll
For
be
the city?
2027 almost before it hits Manhattan.
Okay,
So you've got
thanks.
some time. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And the goal of that is to reduce truck trips, so hopefully, yeah,
I
they'll,
don't think they tip, because I don't know who tips on 79th Street. They don't.
well, they're the commercial ones, so they may not,
That's true.
yeah,
That's what
yeah.
it's on. Okay.
All right, thank you, Lisa. Other questions? Look, just so everyone's following along in their hymnals. Congestion pricing revenue is under the. It's great. It's under the consolidated operating subsidies under central business tolling with the cost structure. We are doing the business of the city and the state and the region, and thank you for keeping track quietly, evenly, consistently.
Right, and the consistency, I'm sorry, Neil, to interrupt you, but the consistency shows, because, we're at, 45, 47, 50, that every month, it's not like people are not driving into Manhattan. The people that choose to drive are going to continue doing so, and the people that choose to use mass transit, hopefully that increases, but they're going to continue to do so as well.
Lisa, please.
I lost my train of thought. There you. Oh,
There's
sorry.
no rush. Go ahead.
Have we seen? Are there numbers for the reduction in car traffic, considering we're seeing the same amount of monies?
We are seeing a change in congestion. I think Juliet reported that last week or the Monday previous of, I don't know, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but we are seeing traffic numbers change. John?
12 to 14% every week. Wow. Very consistent.
Right, and everyone is doing well except for.
Wait, let's everyone mic up. Mic up.
And wasn't everyone, you could see a big difference except for the Midtown Tunnel, because that traffic was still being consistent.
I don't recall the breakdown. I know
Okay.
12 to 40% overall, like remarkably consistent every week.
Right.
So
right,
I think,
which is good.
Yeah.
Other questions? Thank you, Jay. Thanks for keeping on. All right. And speaking of keeping on, we will move on to Lizette on headquarters procurements, I guess.
Yes.
Please.
There are 3 MTA headquarter items this month for Finance Committee approval in the estimated amount of $24.1 million. These actions are found in the April 2025 Finance Committee book. The first item is a request to extend 15 competitively negotiated all-agency personal services contracts for the provision of management consulting services awarded to various vendors for 12 months, from May 31st, 2025 through May 31st, 2026, and to increase the aggregate amount of these contracts by an amount not to exceed $10.3 million. These backdrop panel contracts are established to ensure that the MTA has access to a pool of vendors and experts qualified to provide the MTA with professional advice and guidance gained from market intelligence to bolster ambitious MTA-wide initiatives. Utilization of these contracts awarded to the various vendors in the pool have demonstrated operational efficiencies, delivery of better service, and has achieved cost savings for the MTA. The Strategic Initiatives Department closely manages the use of these contracts to ensure that it provides the MTA with technical experts and industry leaders as needed to supplement critical projects at the direction of senior leadership. These contracts are used to supplement turbocharging efforts to save money and time. All the work gets assigned through mini RFPs. Both the extension and additional funding are important to continue the provision of critical analyses and implementation support for initiatives that will ensure the MTA continues to optimize its management and operations. The extension will also allow time to solicit and award new multi-agency management consulting contracts through a competitive request for proposals. The second item is a request for a 5-year extension of a competitively negotiated miscellaneous service contract awarded to Ernst & Young LLC for MTA's governance, risk, and compliance systems. Under this extension, Ernst & Young will provide continuous software as a service for $4.4 million in licensing fees and routine and emergency technical support services, including firmware updates and patches for a total of for $4.5 million, totaling $8.9 million. The GRC systems, 1, establish and maintain internal controls program for the MTA Corporate Compliance Department. 2, provide automated internal review processes. 3, facilitate identification of internal control weaknesses, identify corrective actions to address program weaknesses, monitor the implementation of corrective actions, and 4, assess the adequacy of MTA's ongoing internal controls. EY provided an 84% discount below the current market rate for software as a service subscription based on MTA's volume, and a 16.5% discount below the market rate for technical support and enhancement services. The MTA project team plans to update its business requirements and survey the market for a new competitive RFP prior to the expiration of this contract. This 5-year extension will provide sufficient time to transition to an alternate GRC solution. The third item is a modification to the Cubic Transportation Systems contract to add funding for the purchase of onboard validation device enhancements in the total amount of $4.9 million. As a result of learnings from a pilot using the onboard validation devices on buses as a fare enforcement tool and a fare collection initiative, the MTA seeks to obtain software and hardware enhancements to improve fare validation and to purchase an additional 405 devices to expand the program to other bus routes. $3.9 million is attributable to the enhancements and additional devices, and approximately $1 million is attributable to 2 5-year options for continued technical support exercisable at MTA's sole discretion.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to ask, if you'll indulge me for a second, I'm going to split these up into 2 different votes. So for the first one, I'm going to recuse myself. My firm is one of the 15 firms in that list, and while I do not participate in any way in the work we do for the MTA or anything related to transit or public sector, I just thought it'd be appropriate to recuse myself. So if I have a motion for the 15 consulting piece.
Motion, and then I have a question on the second.
Okay, yeah,
procurement.
great. Motion.
So motion to accept.
Second. Questions, comments? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Okay, then we'll take the Ernst & Young and Cubic together. Can I have a motion? Thank you. Second.
Can I just
Second.
ask a question,
Yes.
Neil? Lizette, how did we get 84%? Not 80, not 85, 84? Discount? 84% discount you mentioned?
Through negotiation. So when the parties were going through the prices, the procurement
Right.
team worked with Ernst & Young to
Right.
try and get as low as possible a
They
price.
wouldn't
and
give us
that's-
85, they gave us 84?
It-
It's
it is- I think it was more
so
of a round,
strange.
I think it was probably a dollar value that
Got it.
translated into an 84%
Got it,
discount.
okay, all right, thank you.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion passes for Ernst & Young and Cubic. Okay, continuing with Olga. I understand we have an information item, please.
Yes, in your committee books, we have for you our annual report on MTA variable rate debt portfolio. And if that's okay with you, I'm not going to go through the report slide by slide. I'm just going to highlight a few key takeaways.
Thank you.
So first, variable rate debt continues to be a very small portion of our overall debt portfolio. It accounts for a modest 5% of our outstanding debt, and the rest of the portfolio is in fixed rate debt. While many other large issuers have substantially higher exposure to variable rate debt, we are not looking to expand our portfolio at this time. And this is mainly because over the last couple of years, there has been less benefit to issuing variable rate debt relative to fixed rate debt. That benefit shrunk even further over this past year relative to historical averages. Our $2.6 billion variable rate portfolio is performing as intended, and last year the weighted monthly average rate on the portfolio came in just under the budgeted rate of 4%. And finally, the finance team continues to manage the portfolio in a way that diversifies our exposure across different types of variable rate bonds, as well as across multiple banks that serve our portfolio in remarketing agent or letter of credit provider capacities. That's all I have, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions on the debt profile? Hearing none. Back to Lizette on an information item for procurement, please.
There is one information item for New York City Transit as follows. This item is a request that the board formally ratify the declaration of an immediate operating need and approve the award of a 3-month miscellaneous service contract to Sovereign Hydroseal East, Inc. for the injection of cementatious grout into the tunnel subbase underneath the track bed at Essex Street Station. There are no procurement items for Metro North Railroad, Long Island Railroad, and bridges and tunnels this month.
All right, thank you. Just as a reminder, in a belt and suspenders-like approach, we have one group will pass the motion. So in the case of Transit or Metro North, we will have those done at the individual committees, and we will get it if it's a financial item over a certain dollar amount. We will get an information item. It is acknowledgement for those of us who weren't either there or paying attention at the previous meetings. But regardless, it is a way for keeping attention for all of us, and I think that's a good thing. I don't mind a check. You know, in a world, in a country where checks and balances are wildly out of favor, it's nice to have them here. Mr. Florio, why don't you bring us home, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, we have 2 administrative and 2 transactional action items for consideration and approval. The first administrative action item is for New York City Transit, and it is an authorization to acquire property interests by negotiated agreement or eminent domain for Phase 2 of the Second Avenue Subway. The second administrative action item is also for New York City Transit, and it is similarly an authorization to acquire property interests by negotiated agreement or eminent domain for the Marble Hill substation project in the Bronx. That's at 5229 Broadway in Marble Hill. The third item is transactional for MTA Long Island Railroad and is a conditional designation of Gotham Organization to construct and operate a transit-oriented development on the former commuter parking lot at the Westbury Station. The fourth and final transaction item is for MTA Metro North Railroad, and it is a lease license extension with last parking for the operation of commuter parking facilities at various Metro North stations. Miriam Harris, who's the head of MTA's transit-oriented development, is here to answer any questions regarding the Second Avenue Subway, Long Island Railroad action items, and has an update on a recently closed transaction. So I'm going to hand it to Miriam to talk about that.
Thank you, David. It's nice to meet all of you. I'm here today to request two authorizations. The first authorization is to conditionally designate the Gotham Organization as the developer of the former commuter parking lot at Westbury Station into a transit-oriented property consisting of a minimum of 157 housing units.
Great.
Gotham's proposal was selected after a competitive RFP process. The development will yield $15 million in ground rent for the MTA over the term of the 99-year lease. It will create a vibrant new open space connection to Westbury Station that will enhance customer experience and contribute to the ongoing revitalization of downtown Westbury. We also request authorization to negotiate and enter into a pre-lease and development agreement, which will include the unexecuted final form of the lease, with Gotham. This will be in conformance with the basic terms that have been attached to the conditional designation. Final approval of the lease is conditioned upon the MTA and LIRR board approval at the completion of the environmental review under SECRA. The second action is an authorization to acquire fee interest in 124-130 West 125th Street in Manhattan for the Second Avenue Subway Phase 2 project. This is an approximately 20,000 square foot lot that currently contains a one-story commercial building. It has been determined that this property is required in concert with the adjacent property, which was previously acquired in 2022, to construct SAS2's ancillary A structure. While we are requesting authorization to acquire the property by eminent domain in conformance with the eminent domain procedure law, we will first endeavor to acquire it via a negotiated agreement. If we are able to agree to terms with the property owner, we will return to you to seek approval for that transaction. Additional details are in the respective staff summaries for those two authorizations. We're happy to take any questions at this time, but before we do, I would like to briefly share a recent closing. Earlier this month, the Transit-Oriented Development Group closed on the sale of Metro North property interests in the vicinity of Webster Avenue in the Bronx. This generated $3.9 million for the MTA and will facilitate the construction of 550 affordable housing units. This
Wow.
transaction was approved by Finance and the full board in February 2023 and January 2024.
Great.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Miriam. I'll take all four items as a motion in a second, then we'll ask questions. Motion. Thank you, Mira. Second, Hada. Any questions?
I have a question. Miriam, nice to see you again.
Yes,
Welcome
you
to
too.
the MTA.
Thank you very much.
The Gotham redevelopment, did you say it was 50 or 15? Was it 50 or
15. 15.
1-5,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Please.
The Westbury project, that's replacement of a commuter lot now? What's on the site now?
The commuter parking lot, a structured parking was built prior to this redevelopment, so now the lot that was replaced with a parking garage will now be
This was
replaced.
part of the third track where they built the new lot as this, still the
believe-
same switch of property?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yes, my
Okay,
colleagues
thank
who are
you.
here.
Okay, yes, okay.
And so now we are, since it's surplus for the Long Island Railroad, we are building.
I understand, okay. I just didn't
transit-oriented
know if this was
development.
something beyond what was done in the past, but it's the same project. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, thank you, Mark, and thank you to our real estate team for continuing to drive transit-oriented development. It's a very efficient way of keeping people on the system as well as not being in an urban environment directly, so thank you for that. Okay, we have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion passes. I'm going to turn to Olga for an in memoriam, please.
Chair, thank you for letting me take a few minutes of the committee time. to share the heartbreaking news of passing Marcia Tanyan this past Saturday after a courageous battle with cancer for many years. Marcia was a beloved colleague and a friend, and she led MTA Finance Department since 2022 in a co-director role. She was a valued member of our team and really well respected by public finance industry. The outpouring of support and sympathy is just incredible. Just wanted to let you know about this sad news.
Thank you for sharing that, Olga. Okay, with that in mind, motion to adjourn, please. Thank you, Lisa. Second, thank you, Blanca, and we'll see you all Wednesday.